All right, so what I'd like to do is share my screen, and that way you guys can see what I'm looking at, and I think you can right now. So this is pretty much what you see when you log into Canvas. Is that correct? Anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And it's great to hear your voices, because I know that there's somebody out there and I'm not just talking to myself, which I do on occasion, but it's probably not a good thing right now. Anyway, here's the home page where you're going to find most of the stuff. Now, remember, this lab was really designed for us to meet in lab. And so the course content that's posted in Canvas is sort of a secondary for information. The primary is when we get together and go over the material and take questions and things like that. But anyway, you'll find a lot of info that's good here in Canvas, namely the syllabus and schedule. So we can get into that right away. And we have the PDF forms of the syllabus. So let's just take a quick peek at this. So we have the course description and objectives, which you can read. This course requires a prerequisite Chem 200 lab. And I'm assuming that the Chemistry 200 lab that you guys took was a face-to-face class, and that you got into doing experiments in the lab by hand. Is that true? Is most of you guys done that, or is there anybody who hasn't really had that much lab experience?
My Chem 200 lab was not in the lab, but I have been in the lab for like other chem classes, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I have
Would
the
it-
same experience too.
Okay, so it's kind of mixed. So some people have more experience than others. That's okay. Like I said, the first lab that we're going to be doing is not really a lab per se. It's a computer exercise. And then the first lab that we get into is a kinetics experiment. And remember that all these labs are designed to go hand in hand with our lecture course here at Mesa. Now, if you're taking a lecture course at one of our sister colleges like Miramar City, it's not going to mesh as well. And so if you have an opportunity to take the lecture and the lab at the same college, I would recommend that if you can swing that with your schedule and stuff, because then the lecture will complement the lab much better. All right. Anyway, we have this prerequisite Chem 200 lab that you have to pass. And of course, you're going to be taking the co-requisite 201 lecture. The lab textbook you can find in the bookstore. And I'm not sure if you can see this because I'm sharing my okay, this is what the lab manual looks like. Did anybody pick this up already?
No, not yet.
No one's got it. Okay, so I don't know what the price is, but it's from Montezuma Publishing. So you can either get it from Montezuma or you can get it from our bookstore here. But it's good to have a hard copy of that to help you with your reports and stuff. Okay. All right, so let's see, what else do we have? A calculator is good. You need one for lecture anyway. So you want to bring that to lab. And it should be a calculator, a scientific calculator, and one that you're familiar with and know how to use. And the only way to do that is to obviously practice with it, because it's going to come in handy for your exams and stuff. So you need to get a nice scientific calculator. It doesn't have to be very expensive. $10, $20, I think should do it. You're going to need a pair of fully shielded safety goggles to protect not only if things try to fly at your eyes from the front, but also from the sides. So make sure that they're goggles and not glasses. We're going to need a mask because of COVID. We'll be working with masks. You're going to need this V629 master lock. It has a little keyhole in the back. So in case you are absent and a lab partner needs to get it some sort of chemical that you had stored in your locker, your partners can have access by just unlocking it. The lab techs have the key and stuff. You're going to need a laboratory coat, and all of those items, except for the calculator, may be provided by the stock room. It depends on if they have any extra from last semester. So what happens is if anyone doesn't check out from a previous semester, then their equipment goes into a pile, and then if other people need that equipment the next semester, then they give it out. But you know, that you may be able to get or not, depending on if supplies last. And like I said, if there's any questions, yeah, it's in the morning. Sorry about that. I much prefer if you guys would just holler if you have any questions than type it, because it's, like I said, hard for me to keep track. All right, so where was I? You're going to need a little notebook, and it doesn't have to be an expensive notebook. It can be just a little spiral bound pages. You could pull them out or not. It's not going to be the more expensive laboratory notebook that you might find in a research facility. We're going to leave that for you. If you have that, that's fine, but it's up to you. And so it's kind of loosey-goosey on the notebook, but you should have one to take notes during the lab. You're also going to need a flash drive so you can record some of the data that you take in lab, because these labs, some of them are going to be computer interfaced, and they're going to generate lots of data, which you're then going to need to work up using a spreadsheet program like Excel. All right. And so that's about it as far as what you're going to need. Any questions on the textbook or supplies? Okay, so we're good. All right, now the course content, we have 10 experiments. that are designed to supplement the lecture class and deal with a lot of the concepts that you'll be learning in lecture. Safety, you should read through the safety policy. Once we get into the lab, though, that first lab, I'm going to go over the specific safeties of the lab and how it's designed with the eye washes and the showers and where you would deposit waste and things like that. But there are a lot of things that you should be aware of as far as safety concerns of a general nature. So you should read through that part as well. And then at the end of the syllabus, there's a few comments about lab reports. Now, you're probably pretty familiar from Chem 200 and previous chemistry labs how to write a pre-lab. So we're not going to focus too much on pre-labs. It's the post-labs and the discussions that are going to be more important. You know, how do you analyze your results critically for things like accuracy and precision? So we'll get to the details of the lab write-ups and things when we get to those specific labs. But that's essentially the syllabus. Any questions on the syllabus? All right, so we're moving pretty good. Let's take a look at the schedule next. So we have our Zoom intro, and after we're done that, we're going to be looking at the electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing lab, which is not due until February 13th. The due dates are set for Sunday nights at the last possible moment. And you can upload those in Canvas. Now, once we start meeting, you'll have the option to hand in a hard copy if you wish, or continue to upload those in Canvas. All right, so the first week, our class meets on a Monday and a Wednesday. So you notice that in this schedule, it has the things that each lab will be doing all week long. And it's nice to have that information, because if you have to miss a lab and you have the possibility of joining another lab because you have contacted the instructor and the instructor has okayed it, because you can't just show up to another lab. There are safety requirements. There's only so many students allowed in a lab at a time. You would have to contact the instructor to make sure it's okay. So if you know that you're going to be missing a lab ahead of time, then that's a good option. You can contact the instructor, see if they have room, and then show up at their lab and their designated time. This shows you what's going on in a day-by-day basis according to the date. But like I said, there's different labs throughout that day, and you'll need to look up on the online schedule at the Mesa College website whose classes are going on what days in Chemistry 201L. And then you'll need to contact that instructor to see if it's okay. Now, I have 3 labs. I have 2 on Monday and Wednesday, this one that meets at 9:35 and another one at 2:20. I also am conducting the Friday lab, which meets at 9 in the morning and it runs till like 3:30 in the afternoon. So the Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday labs meet for 3 hours twice a week, whereas the Friday lab meets for 6 hours all on Friday. So keep that in mind. You know, if you miss one day, then you might only need to go to half of a Friday lab if there's room. All right, so far so good, and no questions? Okay, like I said, if there are,
Wait,
just
are the
hop.
first 2 labs due on the 13th or just the first one?
Okay, so this first lab, the electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing that we'll be talking about, is due on the 13th. Now, the next week, we're also going to meet by Zoom, and we can talk about the safety and lab techniques video quizzes. These are due by the 13th as well. So both of these are due by the 13th. The electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing, and you should view and take the lab technique video and quiz. Okay. And so we'll take a look at that in a second, but thanks for asking that question. That's what's meant by this. So here, electron spreadsheet and computer graphing due by the 13th, and you need to view those videos and take that quiz before the 13th. So you'll be ready to enter and do the kinetics lab when we get back to class on the 14th. That's the first week where we have face-to-face classes. So we'll be meeting there. The first 2 weeks here, you can see these are all going to be Zoom for those 2 days. So I think, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions? So far, so good?
Hi, sorry, I got kind of confused with the Friday class time. Did you say that was 6 hours or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So Monday, Wednesday class, like the one that we have, meets from 9:35 to like 12:30 on Monday and Wednesday. So that's 6 hours total. But Friday, that only meets on Friday. And so they have to meet for the whole 6 hours. So essentially it's a double lab on Friday.
Oh, okay, thank you. I
Yeah.
thought like we had to go in for 6 hours on Friday. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I'm
said,
sorry.
like-
Yeah, this is kind of confusing. So please, if you have the slightest little bit of question, just feel free to blurt it out, holler at me, say, hey, you wait a second, buddy. What are you talking about?
And if we miss like part of the one of the labs, we can like crash the Friday lab.
Well, you have to let me know that you want to show up to that Friday, and then I have to check to see if I have room.
Okay.
Okay. And that's with any instructor. If you want to go to another instructor's lab, which you can see by looking on the online schedule, then you can contact them and see if they have room, because if there's like a lot of people who suddenly needed to go to that lab, they can't let them all in. Okay, any other questions? All right, then I'm just going to continue. If you have a question, please just interrupt me. Okay, so next week we'll talk about the lab safety and techniques videos and quizzes, but you know, we can take a peek at that now, and you can do it now. It's not going to take that long to get this done. And the reason why I have this set up in a Zoom format for the safety and lab techniques quiz is because I know that a lot of you guys have different experiences in lab. So in order to get you kind of up to snuff, and even those people who are experienced in lab, they might need a little refresher on how to use a spectrophotometer for a Beer's Law analysis, or they might need a refresher on how to read a pipette or fill a burette or something like that, right? So that's what these videos are about, and we'll take a look at one today. And so that'll be good to get everybody ready to go for this first week that we're going to meet in lab, which is the week of February 14th. So we'll get in there on Monday, we'll check in, and we'll do this equilibrium part A, which is just a part of a lab. Okay, and equilibrium lab, this lab is going to be done down here. So we're just preparing for the equilibrium lab that you're going to do on February 28th up here and checking in. So that first day is going to be short. All right. Now, the next day, we're going to start chemical kinetics. This lab goes hand in hand with the lecture material that you guys will be talking about in kinetics. And so we're going to do that kinetics experiment, start on Wednesday. The kinetics experiment is due on the 27th. We're going to finish it the next week because we have this holiday on Monday. We're going to finish that kinetics experiment on Wednesday. And then it's due the 27th, Sunday. That's the day before we meet on Monday, the 28th, to start a different lab. Okay. And these labs are in your lab manual, and here's the pages that you should check out for those different labs in your lab manual. All right, so we go through kinetics. That's the first chapter in lecture, then equilibrium. In my lecture, kinetics and equilibrium, that's the topics that's going to be on the first exam. And then the next week, we have in there a kind of an online type of lab. It's kind of like the first one that you guys are doing now, in the fact that you don't need to be in the laboratory taking any data. And the reason why we stick this in here is because just in case we don't know what's going on with COVID, or you know, there's a lot of things that are in flux. You guys may have to miss a lab for whatever reason, and so forth. And if you miss any of these labs, then you can use this one to make it up. And there's instructions in the lab manual. It's kind of a thought experiment using statistics, where you look at different procedures in an experiment, and you try to think of what this error would do as far as your final results. So it's an interesting lab, and it helps you think about how procedures in lab affect your final result. But it's optional. And so it doesn't really have a due date. So say at the end of the semester, you miss a lab back here, and you go, oh no, I can't make it up, and all the labs are full, so I can't make it. You can still do this lab to replace that grade. And you have up into the last day of lab class to hand that in. All right, any questions so far? All right, and then we go through, like I said, these labs go hand in hand with lecture material. So we'll be doing a lab on pH and buffer solutions, acid-base titrations, Then we do sort of a mini research lab on oxalate, thermodynamics, voltaic cell, and then end up with quantitative and qualitative analysis, and then check out. And that's pretty much it. Any questions on the schedule? I would recommend that you print this out. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to print it out, and then I'm going to hang it up somewhere, so I have an easy way to see it. Or maybe you can put it in your 3-ring binder with your lab manual and stuff. But I think it's good to have on hand a hard copy so you can look at it or write on it if there's any instructions or notes and so forth. All righty. So now we're done with the schedule and syllabus, and we can go to the next module, the pre-lab videos. Now, this was in the second week. You had to go through these pre-lab videos. Here's the pre-lab techniques quiz. It's only 12 multiple choice questions. And then we have an equipment video to get you more familiar with some of the equipment that we use, and the ACS safety video series. If you haven't seen that already with Chem 152, Chem 200, then you can check that out. But anyway, let's go back to these pre-lab videos. And so this one here is on how to use the analytical balance. Then volumetric pipetting and pipetting techniques, the spectrophotometer, burette, and burette reading. All of these things you're going to need to know how to do to be successful in the lab. So you want to check those out. And then after you're done checking those out, you can come and take this pre-lab techniques quiz. Okay, so you click on there, take the quiz. You're allowed 2 attempts, and you get the highest score of those 2 attempts. So what is the precision of an analytical balance? You're going to have to watch that video, and you're going to have to know what the definition of precision is to pick the right answer. Analytical balances are not sensitive to, all these things. What are they sensitive to, and so forth. Parallax error. So, if you don't know what the answer is right away, it's probably because you need to look up some definitions and figure it out. And by doing that, you'll learn the basics and be prepared for entering into the lab on the first day. Any questions on that? Okay.
What's the on the pre-labs techniques quiz? Is there anything we should? The only thing we have to do is watch like the pre-lab videos.
Yep.
No, and that'll tell us all the information, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's see, what else do we have here? The entering into the Zoom room, which you know how to do because you're here. Here's some other pre-lab quizzes. I haven't connected to the assignments yet, but I will. Now, the other important thing here for you guys to look at is this assignment tab. So if I click on the assignments tab, this has all your assignments that are upcoming, the pre-lab techniques quiz that we just talked about, the electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing. That's your first lab. That's the one that's due in a couple weeks. And we should take a look at that right now, just to get you guys started. Then we'll talk more about this on Wednesday and go through any of your questions. And then after that, remember in the schedule, there's the chemical kinetics lab, and then the equilibrium lab and the pH and buffer. And here's all the rest of your labs that you need. And so we'll just take a look at electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing. It says after reading through the ESCG lab from your lab manual, it's also posted here. So here's a copy from the lab manual. In case you haven't had a chance to get your lab manual yet, it's posted here. And then you're going to take this pre-lab quiz before you do the lab. Now, this pre-lab quiz stuff that I have for you guys is not going to be something that's going to go into your grade at the end of the course. And so you say, well, geez, why do I have to take it then? It's not going to affect my grade. Well, the reason why is because I'm just starting these, number one. So I'm just making these up. And the reason why I'm doing it
Does
is
that
to
include the
help.
pre-lab techniques quiz and like just basically all of them?
Yes. Now the
Okay.
pre-lab techniques quiz, if you don't take that one, then I can deny you for coming into the lab if you haven't taken it. So you need to take that because you want to be prepared for the lab. And it's the same thing with the safety quiz.
But
You
if
have
they
to take,
still won't affect our grade if we do badly on both attempts or something.
yeah, it
like-
doesn't matter. It's not going to affect your grade.
Do we
The
have to
purpose
take
of
all
these,
of the lab stuff or just the techniques quiz?
all of these will not affect your grade. They're made up, and I'm starting to incorporate these into the class just to help you understand what's going on when you get to lab and not be lost. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, you want to, before you come to lab, of course, you want to read the lab and be prepared. So in order to help you do that, I have these quizzes. And the idea is that these quizzes will help you pinpoint some areas that you may not know as much as you should. So you can say, oh, I better look that up, or I don't understand what that means, or what's the definition of this? That's the purpose of these pre-lab technique quizzes or pre-lab quizzes. Now, having said that, if you are borderline for a grade, like say a B to A, according to the syllabus, for an A, you need a 90% or above. Now, if you have an 89% and you've done all these quizzes, I'm more likely to say, well, you know, this person's really trying. They try hard. They read their labs. They did the pre-labs. I'll be more willing to bump your grade up. So it's kind of like a class participation thing. In other words, you should do these because it not only is going to help you in the lab, but it could help you at the end in your grade. Okay? Just to complicate things a little more. All right, any questions on that? Okay, let's take a look at this lab quiz for the electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing. Let's see, it's only 3 questions. All right. So for this electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing pre-lab quiz, it says the pH of a 15.25 molar solution of H plus And then it gives you the definition of pH. pH equals minus the log of the H plus concentration is. So you might need to look up some of these definitions. Now, I assume that since you're taking this class, you could punch that into a calculator, right? The definition of pH is minus the log of the H plus concentration, and they give you the H plus concentration. So I just need to take the log of that and then negative. All right, so I got my calculator, and you guys probably have yours, so you should take it out, and it's good practice to do this. So I'm going to take out my calculator, and I have 15.25. I'm going to take the log of that, and then I'm going to take a negative. So my calculator, when I do that, says 1.183268. So now I have all these choices. So which do I pick? It has to do with the number of significant figures. So in order for me to pick the correct answer, I have to figure out what this means here, characteristic and mantissa. And so when I look that up, it turns out that whenever you take the log of a number, and you generate something else with the calculator, it's no longer a number. It's not considered a number. In fact, it loses its units. So whenever you take the log, and that's log, or the natural log ln of a number, it loses its units, but it also generates what's called a characteristic and a mantissa. So what does that mean? Well, if you look it up, it means that the characteristic is the thing that's to the left of the decimal point, in this case, the -1, and the mantissa is the value after the decimal point, in this case, 18327. And when you look this up, it also should say something about the propagation of significant figures after taking the log. And what it will say is that how many significant figures the number has that you take the log of, that's how many decimal places your mantissa must have. So this has 4 significant figures, which means I need to make sure that the mantissa has 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this has too many. You see? So this is the right answer. And I get the right answer because I looked up and I understood what this means here. And so this is kind of math, but you need math to do chemistry. It's one of those things where, you know, biology, you need chemistry and physics. With chemistry, you need physics and math. With physics, you need math. With biology, you also need math. And so that's why you have those prereq courses and so forth. But this is kind of a math overlap with chemistry. And so it's here for you to learn. And this will help you be successful in your chemistry report, even though this doesn't go into your grade directly, if you answer some of the questions from that first report pertaining to the characteristic and mantissa that's incorrect, you could get points off. So even though you don't get points for the quiz, this is going to help you get full credit for your report. So I'm just pointing you in directions that I know from past experience where students have struggled with their reports. And
Can you
so I
repeat the last bit? What was the thing about the report that you do?
So thanks for asking.
Yeah, sorry. Every once in a while, I'll just like you'll just like track like be thinking about like the last thing that the teacher said, and then you'll miss the next thing. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? At least you're tracking. Sometimes I'll be listening and then I'll be thinking about what I ate for dinner last night or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, no problem. So what I'm trying to say is that the lessons that you learn from doing these quizzes will help you score better in your reports.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been grading these reports for 20 years now, and I know where students have trouble. So I made up these quizzes designed specifically for you to understand those things that give you trouble so you can score better in your report. Did that help answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, in other words, do the quizzes and understand them. If you have a problem, then find the solution. Ask me, what's up with this? I don't understand this. I can't get it. I looked up the definition and so forth. Because when you go to prepare that report, they're going to ask you to do a similar operation and expect you, when you report that answer, to have the appropriate number of significant figures. And so this question 1 deals with that. If your number has 4 significant figures and you take the log of it, then your answer better represent 4 significant figures. But you might look at this one and say, oh, this has 4 significant figures, but it's not right. This does not, because it's not a number like we know it. This is a compound value made up of what's called a characteristic, which is a placeholder. It's to the left of the decimal. The mantissa carries the number of significant figures. So this thing right here only has 3 significant figures, whereas this has 4. But how would you know that? You would only know that if you looked up what the characteristic and mantissa means and how it's generated by taking the log of a number. Okay, so that's just another reason to go ahead and, you know, try to do these questions because it's going to help you with your report. And we can take a look at the reports. Now let's go back to the assignments. This first electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing. Here's the Excel file for the report is right here, and a copy of this lab manual. So let's take a look at the lab manual and this first lab. So I recommend that you purchase that lab manual so you'll have a hard copy to write on and to carry with you and look around. All right, so here's the beginning of the lab. It talks about different parts in here. And the first part of this lab is pretty much a tutorial using Excel. So it talks about how to input data. and how Excel reads that data. It talks about how to create columns and adjust them. It talks about relative definitions versus global definitions. So it's all tutorial in this section, you know, how to do things in Excel, how to plot things, how to generate columns of data based off of experimental data, and to make sure that you have the right number of significant figures in that generated data. For example, if you look at this part right here, you have the concentration. And I see the concentration has 1, 2, 3, 4 significant figures. Right? I'm sorry, not 4, 3 significant figures for this first one, 2 for the second, 2, 2, 2, and so forth. So when I take 1 over that concentration, this is the concentration. When I calculate 1 over, I have to make sure my value has 2 significant figures. I'm sorry, 3 for this first one, because it has 2 trailing zeros, right? So it needs 3 significant figures, and in this column here, you see 3, 1.00. The second number only has 2 significant figures, so my answer over here can only have 2 significant figures, 1.3 times 10 to the second. That's what this E plus 0.2 means. That's Excel lingo. Now, look at the log column. So this column takes the log of the concentration. I know this first number has 3 significant figures. Notice that the mantissa has 3 after the decimal point. So that's proper. And this one has 2. So if you hand in something that doesn't follow those rules, you're going to get points off. And that's why you want to learn the things you can from that question 1 in the pre-lab quiz about the mantissa and the character. But anyway, that's just one of the things here. You can look at this. Like I said, the first part is pretty much a tutorial on how to use this Excel program and make plots and present your data. Okay, now at the very end starts the assignment. So none of this stuff previously do you have to hand in. Here's what you're going to hand in. You're going to look for this file, electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing Excel file, which is in the assignment section where I got the lab manual part that we're looking at right now. So for your report, you're going to open up this Excel file. You're going to enter your name in A1, and you're going to do all of these things and hand it in 2 weeks, in February 13th, when it's due. Okay. And you'll see that one of the things that you're going to need to do is to complete the spreadsheet, which is generating those columns for 1 over concentration and the log of concentration, and make sure that they all have the correct number of significant figures, which is what we were just talking about, at least for the log one, where you had to make sure that it had the right number of sig figs in the mantissa. All right, any questions on that? Okay, so we can go back to this area again where the assignments are. That's the first one, electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing. And if we got in there, you see there's the lab quiz. Here's the file that you're going to need for the report that we were just
Are
referring
we
to.
like on this thing that where the pre-lab quiz is without actually starting the quiz?
I'm sorry, what's your question?
Does this link automatically start the quiz the moment we click on it, or is there just going to be a?
Let's see. No,
Okay,
well,
yeah,
it says,
okay.
well, yeah, start the quiz or resume quiz. It doesn't automatically.
Okay,
But
got it.
you don't have like a time limit
Mm-hmm.
for this. I think it's before the due date of the lab. I don't even think there's a due date actually.
Yeah, and we can even stop the quiz midway and then just come back to it, right?
Yes, and you get 2 shots for it. And like I said, it doesn't count in your grade. It only helps you do better in your report.
But what I mean is,
Any questions? All right, so yeah, back in the assignment section. So we got all the assignments set up, and I want to have these pre-lab quizzes set up for you, like the chemical kinetics one. I have a pre-lab quiz there, but I don't have one for the equilibrium yet because I haven't gotten to it. I don't think. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so there's nothing there. Yeah. Okay, now having said that, we will be meeting for chemical kinetics, equilibrium stuff. So we'll be face to face and you can ask a lot of questions there. But for the electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing, we're just stuck with Zoom. Zoom questions and so forth. So what I have here and with other labs is I have a video that helps you prepare your report. So you saw for your report, what you had to hand in was that numbers 1 through 8 in the lab manual. Well, if you take a look at this video here, this helps you answer those questions 1 through 8. And so, I mean, we can listen to it, I guess, for a little bit.
Hello all. I'd like to make up a video here for the online activity 1 report.
Yeah, so here's that file that you have to work up for your report. So after you go through the tutorial in the next week or so, and you look at Excel and you learn how to generate data based off of experimental data, and you learn how to plot the data, and you learn how to fit that data to mathematical functions and properly present that mathematical function on your plots and so forth. You're going to need to open up this report and this file, sorry, to start your report after you go through the tutorial. And that might be a good time to take a look at this video, because I go through in this video in some detail on how to generate those columns. And I talk about the significant figures here and how to make sure that your experimental data and your generated data reflect the number of sig figs appropriately, and so forth. And I talked through this whole video pretty much how to find the answers to all the different parts in your report. So I think you'll be in really good shape if you read and understand this. And if not, then by all means, ask at our Zoom meetings. So you'll have plenty of time to, I think, do this and digest all this information. And that's pretty much it as far as the course content in Canvas and our introduction. So any questions? You guys have any questions?
I don't think so.
For office hours, will you be doing them on Zoom, or once we're back in person, will they be in your actual office? How's that going to go?
Yeah, the office hours are going to be by appointment. So they could be by Zoom or in my office, whichever you're comfortable with, whatever is easiest.
How do you schedule an appointment?
Just email me.
Okay.
And so I usually get with emails, I'm usually pretty quick, unless it's during the weekend, then I don't check them so much. But during the week, it's definitely within 24 hours. Any other questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Remember what the first page in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the first sentence says, don't panic. If you've ever read, it's a sci-fi by Douglas Adams, written, I don't know, 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, I read that one. I wouldn't.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, so don't panic. Just if you have any questions, let me know, and we can work out just about any problem that arises. So I'm just going to hang out here till everybody leaves, and if you want to hang out and ask a question, then by all means, go ahead.
Oh, is that it for like the lab today or something? Or...
Yep, that's it. You guys should be in good shape. You know, go through your syllabus schedule. You know, start going through the tutorial in electronic spreadsheet and computer graphing, and look at those videos. If you have questions, let me know.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
You got it.
Bye. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question with regards to meeting times. It's been a while since I've been on campus for like any classes. So on my schedule, it says 9:35 to 11 and then 11:10 to 12:35. Does that mean you're just giving like a break and then we go back into the lab once we're like in person?
Yeah, that's a great question, Desiree. What really usually happens is that 10-minute break that you can have. We in lab, we don't have any specific designated time. In other words, you come in the lab, if you got to go to the bathroom, hey, you just go. If you want to step outside and drink your coffee or have a snack, then you just do it, right? And so we don't have any formal 10-minute break time. So most of the time we just, when we're finished the lab and, you know, everyone's done or you're done, you just pack up and leave. And if it's 10 minutes earlier, then it is.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's kind of loosey-goosey.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's been, I was doing online classes before any lockdown and pandemic stuff. So, and only going in for lab for like biology and etc. So, okay.
Yeah,
That's
I
helpful.
can't stand this online stuff, man.
It's really rough for science classes.
Yeah, but you know what? There, at least we don't have to stay online. In 2
True.
weeks, I will be back in class. You know, so this is just, and the way that we have this set up for the first 2 weeks, it's pretty fluffy. I mean, it might seem like, oh my God, there's a lot, this electronic spreadsheet computer graphing thing, but it's really not that much because we're going to have 2 weeks to do it. And if you have any
Hey,
problems
I have a
during that
question.
2 weeks of time, then
Right.
we'll take care of it.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh, wait, I have a question. On my schedule, it looks like I was, it looks like can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm just stopping the.
Okay, yeah,
vi-
yeah, I just clicked away. But on my schedule, it looks like I have for the lab, I have it on Monday and Wednesday from 9:35 a.m. to 11 a.m. But
Uh-huh.
then I put it from 11:10 a.m. to 12:35 p.m.
Uh-huh. Yes, Desiree just asked that question that you're asking now.
Oh, I had clicked away and then I realized, oh wait, I should ask this. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. I wish we would ask, or someone would ask when everybody was there. But anyway, the schedule's that way is because that is an artificial 10-minute break in between, you know, an hour and a half and an hour and a half of the lab. But what we do practically once we get in the lab is, hey, anytime you got to go to the bathroom or you want to step outside and take a drink of coffee or eat a snack or something, you just do it.
Mhm. Okay, but but for today, the lab is basically over.
Yes.
Okay, so it was just a lot shorter than it was. Okay.
Well, essentially, I'm not going to talk in lab. What would have happened was I give an introduction just like we did, everything that we did, and then you go and you do the lab in the computer room. And if you have any questions while you're doing the lab, then I'm sitting there at the desk and you ask me. But what we're going to do now is that you're going to go off and you're going to try to look through that lab, and then we're going to regroup and meet again on Wednesday if there's any questions.
Okay.
And then we're going to do that again next week. So we're going to have a lot more time to do the lab than we would have if we met face to face. We're going to have 2 weeks instead of 1.
So basically, I just do whatever I can for the lab or like the stuff for the rest of the day, and then just on Wednesday, I basically, if I have any questions, basically.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. See
Sure,
ya.
Jacob.